Hey everyone on YouTube, how you guys and gals doing? This is my backyard. I'm in the shed, my workshop. We're getting about an inch of snow today, and there's about 8 inches on the ground right now. And the temperature is 20 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty cold. Let me close my shed door. I have a space heater, which without it I would not be able to work at all. Even with this one, it's still difficult because I don't wear gloves. My hands get cold, my face gets cold. But anyway, I love what I do, so I'll just grin and bear it. The point of this video is to show you my experiences with step drill bits versus bimetal hole saws. So when I first started out, I was using these step drill bits, and I went through quite a few. I bought different brands, and they went for different prices. They typically ran $20 and up. I don't know which brand this is or how this one is made. This one says it's titanium coating, which is just BS because that titanium wears out real quick. It really doesn't do anything for it. Again, these are $20-30, and I don't recall this one. And I'm not too sure if this one is, yeah, this one actually is worn, and what you see on the inside there is my attempt to cut the edge and sharpen them, which didn't work, or didn't work too well. Now, instead of these, I recommend to knife makers using a bimetal hole saw. First of all, for our application, I don't think there's really a place for these, other than maybe if you want to make a nice chamfer on an existing hole, then these do a nice job of that. But if you're looking to cut holes, this is the way to go. If you're making large holes like for karambits and such, you're probably looking at making a 1-inch hole. So all that steel within a 1-inch diameter has to be cut and ground out to make the hole. These bimetal hole saws just cut on the outside. They cut the circumference. This is slightly larger than 1 inch. So when you're done, you end up with these pieces, which can be reused with a little bit of creativity to make lanyard beads or something of the matter, something like that. You can see by the thickness of this steel that I work with thick steel. So these guys cut very well. And this piece here, I'm guessing, oh, this one here. This one here is 0.329 inches thick. And the other ones are about 0.295. So this is a thick stock of steel that I was working with. And they cut very, very well. This one here that has like a burr, if you will, in the middle, or 75% in, is because I cut in through the bottom and then I cut in through the top to minimize friction. So this is just a small collection of what I have. In the house I have a larger collection. I do a lot of cutting of holes in my knives. I may have about 50 pieces like that in the shed here and at home. So that's about as many holes as I cut, say, within the last year since I started collecting those. Now, when it comes to the bimetal hole saws, and for those of you guys who don't know, it's usually a carbide bit welded on to a hardened steel shell, if you will. So it's only this point here that is hardened and does the cutting. They don't make the whole thing out of carbide because then it would fracture and crack easily. So it's actually a better design, and perhaps why they're called bimetal. The brands that I used or have tested are Lennox, Milwaukee, and DeWalt. The Lennox and the Milwaukee brand go for about $7 to $8 to $9 each, depending on the size and depending on which brand, of course, depending on where you buy them. These guys are about twice as much. They go about $15, $16 each. Those guys, I have bought them at $30 and up. They make them cheaper, sure, and they make them more expensive as well, I'm sure. $30 and up is what I paid for. And they don't last half as long as these guys. And that's because I make 1-inch holes and I use thick stock of steel. So these guys do not last twice as long as these, not even half as long as these guys. So these guys are not worth it. X them out. The difference between the DeWalt ones and the Lennox and the Milwaukee is that the DeWalt ones have a very thin wall. And I tried the DeWalt ones because I thought a thinner wall would mean a cooler cut. And sometimes that's true. In actuality, they last just as long. Really no need to pay twice as much. I don't see a need or reason why I need to make a thin wall cut versus a thick wall cut. They last just as long. These are half the price. I'm sticking with Milwaukee. Between Lennox and Milwaukee, I go with Milwaukee. Once these start getting a little dull, I save them and I use them for other applications like softer materials like wood or plastic or resin for scales, for example. I don't make a lot of holes in the resin or wood, but so I keep a few, but you know, why use the new one for that? I've got the old ones. Now, if I had a piece of steel, I would show you the proper cutting with one of these. If you don't develop or understand the finesse or the technique, you're not going to really appreciate the use of these bimetal hole saws. They're not going to last you as well. I switched over from a 3.2 amp skill saw to a much larger 15 amp 3/4 horsepower drill. And when I switched over, the technique I used, you know, that hand-eye coordination, that feel that you develop once you understand how to use your equipment, your tools, changed. It was different than when I stepped up to a larger drill press. In the process, just put this away, in the process of learning, I ended up chewing up 2 of these Milwaukee bimetal hole saws. It wasn't the brand, it was my fault. And that's because you definitely need to understand the finesse, much like when you're drilling. When you're drilling through steel, you know when you're putting too much weight, too much force, when you're leaning on it too much versus you're not leaning on it enough. And you're just spinning and heating it up. This was the first one. Now it looks kind of old and beat up, and I'm not focusing. Looks kind of old and beat up, but in actuality, it was only used once, and it never made a hole. And that's because I put too much weight on it without cutting oil. I put too much weight on it without cutting oil, and the tips were just ground right off. Then when I replaced it with this one and I used the cutting oil, again, this was only used once, and it was used to cut the same hole. Totally chamfered the teeth. Instead of wearing them down flat, I ended up wearing the teeth and kind of like angling them and chamfering them. And I guess if I continued, I would have worn the teeth off. Again, I was not doing it properly. My third attempt, once I finally figured out how to use these again, let me emphasize learning how to do them again, how to use them again. This one I've made 10 holes. And you can see that the color of this area here of the steel is not blue and orange because they were not overheated. I've made 10 holes, and you can see that the teeth are still present and they still look sharp. I made 10 holes with this guy. Now let's compare it to this guy. So the one on the left, I definitely cooked. And one on the right, I did not overheat. What did I do different? Well, in the beginning, I was not using cutting oil. The second time, I used a little bit of motor oil to cut. That didn't work. The best cutting oil is WD-40. Spray on a little bit of WD-40. It's going to smoke a bit, but the WD-40 evaporates. It takes the heat with it. I'm brushing the filings that come off, and constantly adding new oil, and that's why the one on the bottom lasted so long. The only thing I could explain to you, and unfortunately, again, I apologize for not being able to visually demonstrate it, is that when you're cutting filings, fine little pieces, you're not cutting properly. You really have to get the ribbons. If you're seeing ribbons or nice flakes, nice large flakes, I don't see the flakes here, I just see pieces of the ribbons over here, then you're cutting properly. That might be considered a nice flake. When you're only getting this fine dust, you're not cutting right. So just crank and put pressure and weight on your drill press until you get the ribbons or these little chips. Then you know you're doing it properly. That's the only tip I can give you. And just figure it out, practice, adjust until you learn how to use them. And once you learn how to use them, they're your best friend. All right, everyone, hopefully this is useful. If you've got any suggestions or brands, Sean Hatcher recommended one brand that was a little pricey, but I'd like to know whether that's worth it or not. If it's, I think the one he recommended was 8 times, 9 times more expensive than the ones I buy. I get 10 plus holes with these guys, maybe 15, 20 holes with these guys. So if these guys are 7 times more, if the one that he recommends 7 times more expensive, I would expect 100 holes, 150 holes from those. Okay, everyone, hopefully you're nice and warm, doing something fun. All the best. Bye now. Okay, so previously I said I didn't have any anything to make holes for this purpose of this video, but I found a piece of scrap. I thought, why not, for the purpose of this video, let me just make a little neck knife out of it. It's AUBL 0.138 inches thick. Not as thick as this one here, which is for a knuckle duster, at about a 1/2 inch thick, or my other ones for knives without scales, or with thin scales, measuring up 0.3, that's a 1/2 inch. That's 1.38. So I figured, let me get a piece of scrap steel and make piece of scrap ABL and make a small little neck knife. I've already made pilot holes for a 1-inch hole here, a 1-inch hole there, and a 3/4 inch hole in between them. And let's demonstrate how it's done. See how quickly I can cut a hole. Oh, I didn't get my. I'm going to use. Am I in camera? Let's see. Here we go. I've got this. It's just like WD-40, just slightly different. Does the same thing. Got my safety glasses on, always. And I've got gloves on because it's cold outside. Wow, my aim was totally off. Well, not totally, but... Okay, so because the pilot hole is able to drill rather quickly, just want to get that crud out of the way, and I'm having a little problem with this light here. I don't want to get it in the camera, but it's interfering. How do we look so far? I think we're looking good. Alright, here we go. Son of a bitch. Lost power. Sorry about that, guys. We're doing this live. Lost power. I can't run my heater and this drill press at the same time. They both draw too much. I've got a 20 amp breaker, and maybe I need to put the heater. I'm going to freeze my ass off without this heater. So, hold on, guys. Sorry about that. As Marshall says, I'm coming at you live, so things like this are going to happen. Okay, so putting on a different circuit. All right, so that wasn't a good test because I got interrupted. There we go. Okay, let's pull that slug out. Got a little nail. Get that slug out. There we go. Okay. We're recording? Yes, we're recording. Here we go. Let me just clean this off so you can see what's happening. And what I'm looking for is the chips, not little dust, either chips or pieces of ribbon. Then I know I'm cutting it right. There you go. Now you know you're getting a good cut when you get the ribbon. So let me take this off, clean this up. Okay, now for my last one. So, I'm not too sure how many more holes. I just want, let me take that plug out. Hold on. Hold on. So I can show you how many. I would say that this bit is actually on the dull side. This bit is, I think it's starting to get dull. Go. AEBL. Two of them now. Okay, so I got my two holes. They were done rather quickly. Let me loosen this up. Get this mic out of the way so I can get some light in here. Put that down there. So I just wanted to show you that one bimetal hole saw cut all of these. The steel is not hardened. This is mild steel. These two pieces here I know are mild steel because of the thickness. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 of these, and I'm just flipping them over so you can see the thickness of them. They are all thick stock of steel. I've been working with some thick stock of steel for some knuckle dusters, brass knuckles, made out of stainless steel, knives with finger holes and karambits and such. I've got a lot of different stuff going on. All of these thick stock of steel, points 3 inches, half an inch, just so you can see size comparison. And these, which I just did today, just now, 0.138. Alright guys, so I hope this was useful. Take care. Oh, let me take you around over here. It's snowing. I think I showed you in the beginning. We just got another inch, and it's still coming down. And I'm done. I'm freezing my my toes. Come on, focus for me. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Come on, camera, focus. Come on, what happened? Focus for me. Look out the window. There you go. So you can see some snow. Alright, guys and gals. Have a good one. It won't focus on the snow. There you go. Alright, guys and gals. Have a good one.